Hey, this is a snuck game against probably Diamond League Zerg, and you're gonna go for the 4 racks opening into an expansion. And I've used this build a bunch of times. It's reasonable. It's good, especially if you catch the Zerg off guard. But if he has an Overlord sitting outside your base, which he always will on this map, and Daybreak, those are two maps where there's always just going to be an Overlord waiting to spot you moving out. It's important to take your first, like, he knows you're going to be making Marines off of this first racks. Like, that's not a surprise, so it's okay to reveal those Marines. All you need to do is hide the Marines off of these other 3 racks. So you rally these 3 racks over here and rally this racks out in front, and you push back any attempt he does at scouting. So by revealing the entire push, he just immediately throws down spines, makes lings, and he's safe now. So that was a big blunder. You probably could have done a lot of damage if it had been more of a surprise. But not doing damage with your push, while that's a really big, bad thing, like who's afraid of the big bad thing? It's not the end of the game. You can still force a lot of lings out here, and you can still delay his third quite a bit, and you can still get your own expansion up and start to build your defenses behind it. What really becomes a big problem is if you stay here for too long, right? Because you're reinforcing with 500 bucks a minute, but he knows there's a bunch of crap outside of his base, so he can reinforce like instantly with a bajillion lings. A bajillion is an actual number. So at first you had the right idea. You had a good number of Marines spread out off creep. And if he comes out with these lings against these Marines when they're pre-spread off creep and just on hold position, then he's going to lose all his lings, and you're going to trade pretty well. But right when he came out, you kind of grouped up your Marines, stopped firing, and just took a big loss. So that was unfortunate and bad, and it allowed him to catch up from the early damage you did. But you're still, even after taking this unnecessarily huge amount of damage from that push, you're still 21 workers to 31, so you're still in a really good position if you've defended your natural. But unfortunately, you haven't. You haven't started mining gas. You haven't transferred any workers down to your natural. You haven't cut workers, which is good. You haven't started taking up. You haven't built the wall, and you haven't built bunkers. So that's really bad. And this is very similar to what we were discovering when we did some TVT practice last night. Is that if everybody leaves you alone and you never have to think about anything, you can execute a build crazy well. And once the pressure starts to come on, you do the important thing, which is not cutting workers and not cutting depots. And that's really, as long as you do that, you still have a good chance to win anything. But you don't do the less important things of putting guys on gas, making additional buildings, spending your money, making a wall in on the low ground, starting your third command center, getting guys to start mining on your low ground base, all those sorts of things. So you got to be wary with this build specifically. In order to survive it, he needs to build a big army. But once he's built that big army, he has no workers and a big army. So he feels like he's going to lose unless he all-ins. So it's very common whenever I was doing this build to see all-ins as a response. And you need to be able to resist the all-in before he even sends it. You know, like while your army is still over here preoccupying him, you should get a bunker here and a bunker here, and then put a wall in here and get another third bunker here and put a thing down. Because you don't have the gas that you need to resist all-ins. There's only 3 ways to resist Zerg all-ins, right? One is massive numbers of bunkers and strong buildings in a good maze. That's what you do when you don't have tech. The second is Banshees, and the third is tanks. So you can't get Banshees, you can't get tanks, so you have to have SimCity. You have to have move all 4 of your Raxes down here, do a completely solid wall in that you can't go through, and get a bunker protected by the high ground, and get another bunker, and you should be fine against these sorts of counterattacks. So you were in a great position assuming you have a low ground wall in, and you didn't, and so now he just did a ton of damage to you. You're not mining at all. You have 17 workers. You lost 24 workers. And so the rest of the game, you're going to feel like you're still in it, and you're going to feel like Zerg is overpowered and there's nothing I could do to resist, blah, blah, blah. But really, it all just comes down to that run by. You lost a bunch of workers, and now you're doomed. He still had 20 workers at 12 minutes, so if you hadn't taken any economic damage, you would be so far ahead that it would just be embarrassing and you'd easily win this game. So lots more stuff happens, but I want you to know that the game is already over due to that run-by. And run-bys are one of the ways to lose a game that should just never happen. And they're so common, and it's such a common way to lose a game, but anytime you lose to a run-by, it's your fault. Because Lings can't knock down buildings, so if you lost to a run-by, it's your own fault. The low ground wall-in should be followed by a high ground wall-in. Like, you can build those one racks, one depot, and then just put 3 more racks at the top of the ramp. There's no need to hide them over here in your base. If you have a low ground wall-in, he's not going to see the top of your ramp. And all that other kind of stuff. So now you're just massing pure Marines. You're going to get stim and combat shield at the same time, and you're not getting engineering bays. You're not working on infantry upgrades. And I want to warn you that if Zerg has a 1-1 advantage over your Marines, then your Marines kind of become completely useless. At 18 minutes into the game, you want 2-2 to be done really long ago. And if you had 2-2 Marines against his 0-0ling Baneling right now, you would do a heck of a lot better than with more Marines but no upgrades. So again, that just comes down to doing something behind your poke. If you can poke and know when it's okay to look away and know when it's okay to start getting double engineering bays and starting your upgrades and getting gas and all those kinds of things, you're going to do a lot better on the follow-up. But now you just have unupgraded pure marine, not very well spread against crap tons of lings and infestors and a spine, and there's just no possible way that attack was ever going to do anything good for you, right? So you lose it, but it's not. You didn't lose the attack because of the micro or anything like that. You lost the attack because at the point of the attack, he had about 60% more army than you. And he had the perfect composition to resist what you're doing, and you didn't have any upgrades, and you didn't even have stim, and you didn't spread your marines very well. This attack never would have worked no matter what. So also your money is getting ridiculously high, and you're not getting a third right now, and you had to kind of stop mining from your main just because you don't have a third, so you don't want to mine it out, I guess. But you're not mining gas down here. There's a lot of minerals still left that aren't really being mined from. This is massively oversaturated. There's no third, and there's no marine going over to secure your third. One thing that it's important to do that only takes like a fifth of a second once you remember it. Anytime you have just a free second and you remember it, send a marine to stand on your third. There should just always be a marine at the tower, a marine on the third, and a marine on his third or fourth, depending on if he already took his third. And he's going to kill them, and that's fine. And you just send another one, just all game long you should attempt to have one marine standing over at your third, because you don't want him to know when you take your third, because that's a really big timing for the Zerg. When you take your third, you are vulnerable because you just took your third. So you don't want him to know when that's happening. You want to take your third, get bunkers up, and be all prepared before he even notices. But not mining gas, you have a ton of gas, you're not spending it on anything. You still don't have any medevacs or upgrades. It's just very silly. So this follow-up was just very silly. It feels to me like you're doing a one-base 4 racks all in, and if that was your plan, then that's just a build that's going to lose more than half the time. So I would like to see a better transition from this. I don't know, I think I sent you a bunch of replays of me doing the 4 racks all in, and there's some streaming videos of it as well. But a lot of the time, the 4 racks opener puts me far enough ahead that I win late with Uber ups. So it is possible to transition from the 4 racks opener and do something good. Like you were pretty far ahead after your 4 racks opener, despite him having 3 finals, because he stayed at 20 workers until 12 minutes. That's ridiculous. And that's the kind of ridiculous response you can expect when you do this 4x poke. So it's cool. Once a Zerg has infestors, you kind of have to have Banshees or Seeker Missile or Yamato or tanks. You need one of those things. And Pure Marine doesn't work against Ling Infestor. A Marine backbone, like almost Pure Marine, with a ton tiny smattering of Blue Flame Hellions and a tiny smattering of Banshees works great against Ling Infestor, because the Banshees can periodically pick off the Infestors. But if these Infestors never die, even if he uses them really poorly, throughout the game, since they live forever, they're gonna pay for themselves, like, massively. And they also prevent you from wanting to clump up your guys, which is something that is very natural. Anytime you move your guys at all, they clump up, and, you know, it just makes life a lot harder for him to have a bunch of Infestors that you're never even threatening to kill. Like, look at this. He's just standing right in front of you, and you can't kill them. There's nothing you can do about it. Anyway, so this game mostly came down to what you were doing behind your poke. So, and that's something that's easy to practice, you know? Do the poke 20 times in a row against somebody and quit at 8 minutes and just look at what's going on in your base. Do you have a bunch of unspent minerals? Are you mining from your second? Are you mining off of all 4 geysers? Have you started your engineering base? Have you started your factory? All those kinds of things, you know, like, you don't even need to play the whole game out. Do the poke, try to win with it, and then stop at 8 minutes and look at what happened back at your base, you know? Also, when you take your third is really important in TVZ, because the Zerg is always going to get his third. Like, your poke is going to delay his third, but he's always going to get it eventually. And if you're on 2 base versus his 4 or 5 base, then bad things, man, bad things. Also, your main, the timing of your third should be sometime before your main mines out its first mineral patch, which should be around 14 minutes. So it's good to build the command center for your third at like 10 minutes and land it as quick as you can. One thing that a lot of people do lately, because 3OC is so popular, is you, like I said, keep a Marine over at your third, but you pre-build a bunker somewhere, like right here, where hopefully the Zerg won't see it, even if he's camping your third. And then you just walk over with 4 Marines, hop in the bunker, and then float your command center over, and it makes it a lot easier to resist the attempted run-by that is like an obvious response to you taking a third.